out of the Mavericks that Luka enjoyed his hookah and he enjoyed his beer. How much was that legitimate that the Mavericks felt like he was going to start breaking down over the next 2 or 3 years?
It's pretty legitimate, and it's funny, Lou, like, and not to play my violin, but in this job, the part that does drive me crazy is like when people get mad because we report the reasons that certain teams did certain things. We're not endorsing that idea. You know what I mean? Like, we're not co-signing on that idea. In fact, I reported that within a column where I made it very clear how bad of an idea I thought it was to trade Luka. Now, that being said, there's very strong indications that was a major factor for Dallas. And I think the two things go together, right? Like the off-court habits with the physical concern. There is certainly a messaging and a narrative that Luka 5 years from now is going to fall apart physically. Now, that is a hell of a thing to kind of put out there, and I'm certainly not the only reporter, who has been told that. Because guess what? Like, time's going to tell. We're going to see, let's run this back, no pun intended, in 5 years and talk about what the Mets said and see how Luka is looking in that Lakers jersey. If I had to guess, it's not going to age very well. But absolutely, the nightlife, the drinking combined with the physical stuff. I heard your guys' conversation about LeBron earlier. The Lakers are certainly hoping that Luka leans into LeBron and does pick up on his habits, does, become more of that guy. Just a quick story for you that I enjoyed greatly the other night. After the Lakers game, in the locker room, I run into Mike Mancias, the famous trainer of LeBron. The guy, yes. And Mike is the one who has been behind the scenes all these years helping LeBron keep his body right. And Mike, I don't think he'd mind me sharing, he kind of shared a funny story about how his wife and kids are kind of routinely asking him, like, Dad, like, is Bron going to retire at some point? Do we get you back? And his family is waiting on the wing.
Waiting for 22 years.
Nope. At least 5 more years.
He's not going anywhere. Sam, I'll give you something great. LeBron's been playing sensational. You just talked about it, his lineage and what he's been able to do, possibly being a positive example for Luka. With his averages right now, do we see him having a legitimate chance at making first team NBA this year?
I think so. I love the question, Luke, because my mind's been on that. Like, I was even thinking, I had to do, I didn't have to, but ESPN and Tim Bontemps has their anonymous MVP poll a couple times a year, right? So I submitted my 5 a couple weeks ago, was thinking about how my top 5 looked on MVP. And this is directly, part of your question is if you're first team All-NBA, then you might be top 5 MVP as well. Yeah. And his numbers reflect it. My only hang up that I am starting to kind of get over a little bit is that, like, the first 6 weeks of the season, and this was out there, but, like, there was some frustration with the Lakers at the way LeBron was competing, that it wasn't the same guy. And they were a little confused about, kind of where his head was at. So it was like he got off to a tough start. The on-off numbers at that point were just not the type of thing we'd ever seen from LeBron. Like, for that short little stretch, they were actually significantly better with him off the floor than they were with him on. But, man, he put that behind him. He's been on a heater for a couple months now. And to see him click the way he has with Luka and have a team that is elite, those are the type of things that could typically lead to first-team All-NBA.
He did take a week off.
I'll give him another week.
I should take a week
off.
Cabo
does wonders for you for a week in the middle of the season.
Take another week. You're going to play like this, I'll give him another week.
You know what? We should all take a week off,
Right
Sam.
before
We'll come
playoffs.
back refreshed, better than ever. It'll be great for everybody that we work with.
We're literally doing that next
You
week.
literally take weeks off all the time.
We're literally doing it next week.
No, you live in Cabo. So, Sam, Anthony Edwards, we know about the technicals. Now he's living on that fine line of can't get enough. Are you mad at me?
No, my heater's on. Been too hot.
Okay, I was like, wait, what's going on?
He's looking at
I know, I was like, I'm sorry, it was not a rude question. Yeah,
No.
Was he frustrated? Look, we know all the changes they made and where the T-Wolves are and how they've looked from night to night on different occasions. But is he frustrated? Is it basketball related? Is it just, you know what, this is his year to be the tech guy? Like, what are we looking at?
I mean, I certainly can't speak for Ant, but the elephant in the room is, no Karl Anthony Towns. Julius Randle gets hurt. Expectations that come from their deep playoff run last year, the spotlight that came with Team USA, Anthony Edwards had quickly become everybody's favorite young NBA star and kind of a he can't do any wrong type of guy. then you start losing games. Then you start having, a system on the floor that is everything's harder, right? Like Cat had a really good year, and they function very different than they do right now. I mean, it's ironic, or at least I noticed last night, this is a career high in scoring for Ant, around 27 a game. And in a vacuum, that sounds like success. I don't think he would agree that it's been a successful year. It's been a frustrating year. And you're seeing that, when it comes to how fired up he's getting on the court. It's just, youth, maturity, stuff that he...
Ejections, technicals.
Oops.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting there baseline not too far the other night in that Lakers game when he chucked the ball into the stands and almost took Maverick Carter's head off in the meantime. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because you could see him, the wheels were turning. He held that ball with one hand for like a legit 5 seconds. The ref is just like being on the playground, like, can I have the ball? Can I have the ball? It was like, nope, I'm going to chuck it, he'll get there, but he's still a young guy.
Got to get Julius and Rudy back.
Well, Julius is back, but Rudy, I don't know what's going on there.
Sam, let's wrap this thing up with a positive note. Cleveland Cavaliers, they've been balling. They're on a 10-game win streak. They had an outrageous comeback against the Celtics the other night. They were up down 25-3. Tatum, Brown, they're all telling them, get him out of here.
That was rough.
That didn't age very well. Are people around the league finally respecting this team? Do they still think the Celtics beat them in a series? Like, what do they have to do to kind of get to win in the playoffs? Like, where are they at right now in people's eyes?
Yeah, I think they're like the classic. You're an on-paper team until you're not. You know what I mean? Like, OKC's the same thing. You look at OKC, and not to get off the Cavs, but, greatest point differential in the history of the game, and we still look at them as an on-paper team because they haven't done it. So I do have Cleveland in that same category, but at the same time, do people respect them? Do they believe in them? I think so, because they check every single box. Kenny Atkinson has done an incredible job coaching-wise. Evan Mobley is a rising star. Donovan Mitchell and what he's done, I love his season so much when it comes to you talk about maturity with Ant, right? Like Donovan being mature enough to realize my numbers are going to dip a little bit, but I'm going to empower Darius Garland. I'm going to be a leader, and I'm going to make it about the entire group instead of just myself and my own individual aspirations. That's the kind of stuff that could lead to a long run and could lead to a championship. That game the other night, I know my buddy and colleague Joe Varden wrote about it, and he praised the heck out of him, but he talked about how it's still just a regular season game, and I get that. But, man, 25-3 to start the game.
That's why I was like, I'm not going to watch. Oops. No, I watched.
Literally, I don't really get in my emotions ever during games. You're just watching. When I saw 25-3, I was legitimately bummed. Like, man, I wanted to see this game, and I thought it was over. And then they come.
That's when you put a money line bet to come back.